All right. This morning, reports have come out that Nottingham Forest and Everton have both been found in violation of the league's FFP rules. To discuss this with us, we have our good friend and 1/3 of the American Toffee Podcast, Ryan Williams, here to discuss. Ryan, how are you, good sir?
I'm just fine, guys. How the heck are you?
Excellent. I haven't had a chance to listen to the ATP yet coverage of the match against Villa. How do we do today? Because normally I think we think kind of sympathetically whenever I hear us each on the same, at the same time.
Yeah, similar take. I mean, it was a bit bloody, and two separate incidents where people had head wounds and had to be repaired on the pitch. I mean, I think that says it all on a 0-0 draw. That's the first 0-0 draw Unai Emery has ever had in the Premier League. That is crazy.
What?
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I was like, really? Wow. Cool.
Yeah, because with us, his defense was garbage. With Villa, their offense was great. And I'm sorry.
Before?
I forgot. I had this queued up for us. I don't know if you remember this.
No, it's not very good, Graham.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Much like your dad jokes, very bad.
Yeah.
No, that was very good. This is the America's Most Wanted segment.
Oh, for Tark. Very good. So, Ryan, real quickly, just briefly discuss what has come out today with the violations.
Sure. The Premier League put out a statement that didn't say too much other than kind of rolling down the rules a little bit and the periods in question, but mentioned that both Nottingham Forest and Everton have each confirmed to the Premier League that they're in breach of the rules, which is not really true what happened. But ultimately, they're going to be deferred to an independent commission, much like Everton was already last year. And away we go. I think both cases are a little bit different, but the Premier League statement didn't say a whole lot. Forest statement said nothing. I mean, it literally was 2 sentences basically saying we acknowledge and we'll cooperate and resolve it quickly. I mean, that's it. Unbelievable. Now, Everton gave a much, much longer one. I think the two cases are a little bit different, but yeah, it's the same type of thing as last year where you've got, the 2 COVID years smashed together. So in essence, it's an average of those 2 and 2 other years, which makes it the 3-year valuation period for better, for worse. But yeah, I think it's just hard to gather too much. We don't have the statements in front of us.
I think our statement could have been a lot shorter. I know you guys at the ATP are a family show. I just think you could have just said 2 words. Fuck you.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, a lot of it too, I don't like, honestly. I just and some of it is like, look, there's some things, and we'll talk about in a second. I think maybe we should knock out Forest first, but there's some things where you could argue the Premier League maybe should change their rules, but ultimately the rules are what they are. So to fight against those without prior approval is kind of silly. But I think Forest, again, there's only so much about it, but I think what Forest has claimed is that had they sold Brennan Johnson before their fiscal year end, the end of June, they would have been absolutely fine, but they had offers from a couple different people. I think Brentford offered like 30 million pounds, and they're like, we're not going to sell him just to meet regulations for 30 million pounds. And they flat out didn't. And they ended up selling it to Spurs in September for, almost 50 million pounds. So it was almost like a choice. I mean,
especially not with that owner. The logical choice and the choice that's going to keep him out of trouble. He does not give a fuck.
No, he's an interesting guy for sure. By the way, they could have sold Sam Surridge earlier to Nashville. That could have been helpful. Sorry, had to get the MLS reference in there. And that, but I mean, if that's all the case was, I mean, it's kind of hard to argue. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, you're in violation. I mean, there's no real question about it. I think. I mean, you look at the numbers; they were incurring pretty big losses there last year in the championship. They've got big negative net spend numbers, but you just don't know what else is in the statements because it's not just all spending, it's wages and other things as well.
So keeping it on Forest for a moment.
This guy right here. Hey, it's all about this guy right here, old Jay Legs. That's what fucked him up. He was on like 250,000 pounds a week. The rest of their squad was on 40.
So the other thing, when a team gets promoted, and we saw this with Villa in particular, you're going to be one of 2 teams. also Wolves, but a lot of their spending was done in the championship, and there were people they brought up with them.
Then Fulham 3 years ago, remember?
You are either going to spend a fuck ton of money and you are going to stay up, or you are going to roll the dice. And if you go down, take that parachute payment back down to you with the championship and have your club be very financially fair. And in the case of Forest, we've jokingly said they bought 267 players. Like they decided we're staying, we're going to spend the money. And particularly, like you said, with Johnson, they would have easily have sold him if they didn't get promoted. Like he was being sold. I know we were interested in him as well.
That deal was done. I mean, he was going to Everton flat out. I can tell you that for sure. Before, but they got promoted and whatever happened. Yeah, you do what Luton Town would do. I mean, they're a pretty extreme example, but they know they can't compete from a revenue standpoint other than just what they're getting straight from the league. So they're going to take that money. They're going to be strict still on their wage cap. And he's going to invest in the stadium so that they eventually have something that's more sustainable. But yeah, Forest went crazy. I mean, there were jokes about how many guys they sold. And, you know, some of it reads a little bit like early Everton under Moshiri. I mean, it's, you know, the thing is, look at what they did in January. If you knew you were up against it, fine. But I mean, they bought, Felipe, who was on big wages, an older guy. Danilo is a great player, really good talent. I get that, you know, loans for Taylor Navas, but a loan for Chris Wood that vested after what, like, three games or something. And he's making $100K a week. That's what the Athletic reported, triggering for 15 million pounds. And then, Shelvey, I don't understand the Jonjo Shelvey deal. 2.5 years at 75K a week. Why? So again, typically when you're going up against the limit, there's deals like this. They did buy a lot of talented players, though. It's hard to argue, but yeah, they did go a little bit crazy. This is clearly their way of saying, you know what? Fine. We'll roll the dice, but I'm not going to cost my team almost 20 million pounds. And, you know, we'll see what the difference is, because if you dock them points, if you get relegated, it's a massive financial impact. If you don't, you know, say you dock what Everton did for 10 points and you don't get relegated, it's probably 2 to 4 spots in the standings. And that probably ends up being a good deal for you if you look at the money that you made on Brennan Johnson.
Yeah, fair. Very fair. Now, this one, I'm going to kind of combine two questions as we move towards Everton. The first one is, considering that it's one after another, should this be considered a double jeopardy on Everton? Also, because when we go back to COVID and we talk about the COVID spending, we didn't jump into the scheme. We didn't take advantage. We said, we'll work off our own credit. We're going to keep everybody hired. We're not going to furlough anybody. Yeah, I got you in just a second, Graham. We're not going to do any of that. And now this is coming back to bite you in the ass, and you're not spending it on the field. You're spending it building a new field. So the idea of FFP is it's a competitive advantage. Well, where we're losing all the money is building a new stadium to try to make ourselves better and more financially viable. But it all seems weird. And Graham, go ahead and give your point as well, and then we'll let Ryan go.
So the rule that Everton have breached is not the financial fair play rule. It's the Premier League's internal profit and sustainability, which is different and does take into account infrastructure spending, where FFP does not. Like UEFA's FFP does not take that into account. That's different. Now, I did read a few different articles, and this was kind of piggybacking on your question for Ryan, since he seems a bit more clued up on it. Is a few things I read seem that this is the same fucking charge that they already have been punished for. But because 2023 didn't garner enough profit, that essentially they're still in violation. So it's the same issue, but it's 2023's charge instead of 2022's charge. Is that accurate?
Let's walk that down. Yeah, partially. So ultimately it's because they merged the average of those 2 years together, it's those 2 years and 2 other years, right? So we moved ahead a year. So really all that happens for Everton's sake is, and this is why I think people are just totally flummoxed, how the heck did they fail, is you take off fiscal year end 2019 and you tack on this last fiscal year 23. And from Everton's case, in 19 was a massive contributor to the big loss. And we already know through the Premier League case that the argument is how off or how much of a violation, how far did Everton exceed the 105? And it's 19.5 million pounds according to the Premier League. So if you take off 2019, you add on 2023, I mean, really, it's just a math exercise there. All you need to do, and this is measured off your profit loss statement, you're in your income statement, as we would say in the States, you just need to do $19.5 million better from year over year, just comparing those 2 years. And so it's similar in a way to your point that it does include, 3 of those or 2 of those other years, 3 and then the 2 averaged together to make a second. So I get the double jeopardy comment, but it's kind of disingenuous to me because look, all you need to do is do better in 23 and you already had a massive loss in 19. So I don't see how you could screw that up. So if you kind of peel that back a little bit, and we'll get to the point about the stadium funding, because me being the, CPA and a couple master's degrees in finance, I cannot believe I use that as often as I've needed to the last couple of years in football. Like whatever happened to like watching games and stuff, it's annoying. I hate it, man. I almost wish
you get to look at your parents and you go, see, my fucking college degree's being used. Stop it. Stop giving me a hard time.
That's not what you expected for.
Stop it.
It's so awful, right? I just wish I didn't have those letters after my last name every time we get into this. I had some guy on Twitter explaining to me what amortization was the other day. I was like, dude, I know. Wait, I don't want to know any more about it. So anyway, if you look at kind of 23 in a nutshell, I mean, Everton definitely reduced wages. So the P&L is all revenue minus expenses. So, Richarlison's gone, Alon, Tosin, Rondon, you had JPG.
Gordon. Well, no, Gordon. Right. Yeah, Gordon was 2023. Yeah.
Right. And so then we get into the player trading. The player trading is ridiculous. I mean, you basically bought, so all of Everton's business in the summer were bought after June 30th. So like Trimidi, Beto, those guys off. But they did come in and did buy guys like Mopai, Onana, McNeil. But the difference is they only spent, 75 million euros or so on players. Well, that gets amortized over the life of their contract. So my guess is player trading costs, expense related to player trading is about maybe 20 million euros, something like that. And they sold Moise Kean. And the net gain on that was probably about 15, 20 million euros, about 15 probably million euros. And Gordon, who was all profit because he's an academy kid. So you got a massive profit from player trading. Wages are dropped. There's no like outlandish charges for coaches because we were firing them every year. So what the heck happened? So you read Everton's statement and they don't really talk about that too much. But reading in between the lines, my guess is the only thing it could really be is massive interest expense. However, there's the big curveball, right? So that was a big argument of the case before. And the argument was pre-planning costs on infrastructure, which let's talk about that first. Number one, why would the Premier League not want to encourage teams to spend on football facilities and things like that? Of course they would. In Everton's weird case, because they're fairly unique building the stadium, I mean, they spent upwards of 50 million pounds, not just on infrastructure and pre-planning, but like all sorts of heritage assets because of the crazy location of the stadium, all this other stuff, which the Premier League rules explicitly say, those are just expenses, man. We're not making any allowance for that. Now, they eventually fought that and came to some sort of compromise. That should have nothing to do, though, with my 23 versus 19 thing. Why? Once the construction starts, and in this case, the way UK GAAP is designed, once you achieve planning, which they have, any interest expense explicit for debt related to construction is capitalized as part of the asset. So it's not even on the P&L. And so that was a big argument of the case. Everton said, well, wait a second. We didn't capitalize stuff after pre-planning. That's our bad. But hey, cut us a break. If we had done that, we wouldn't have blown through the difference by quite as much, which is a laughable case, right? It's like, why didn't you? It's like the Gylfi Sigurdsson thing. Well, we didn't collect insurance on him, because we're just a nice, wonderful group of people. Well, okay, but that's on you. But my issue is I don't see how at this point you're way past. Construction has been going on all throughout 23. Like if you're so stupid that you didn't explicitly tie or demonstrate that your debt is tied to the stadium and thus capitalizing, that's taking it out of the entire equation just for accounting too. It's not like you don't need a provision in the rules and Premier League guidance for that. It doesn't hit your P&L. It just goes right to the balance sheet. Like if you're not doing that, you're just, that's on you. So I can't imagine that's really an argument. And in that case, and then I'll wrap up and I'll turn it over because I'm talking a lot here, is look, why didn't you get a financing deal done explicitly for the stadium? Like, you blew it. Now you're in a high interest rate environment. Just the whole financial end of it is absolutely insane. And okay, the war was a big factor too, but this really has nothing to do with this. This had to do with just making decent, remotely normal decisions. I mean, can you guys think of a single stadium that has ever been built? I mean, those are big projects without dedicated financing. Like, seriously, go do the research. You will not find one. So I don't know what the breach could possibly be. My guess is that's it, but I cannot see how they would have gone by. I was shocked.
All right. So I've got two quick points, because that was a lot of highbrow CPA jargon, and I need to make sure that the DU Football Show community, it's brought back down to earth real quick.
I mean, I could swear if you.
Well, first,
I love that.
You look like you need to get it out.
I mean, you've heard me swear. I mean, you've heard me swear, so it's not like, I mean, I can cuss like a sailor, just not on the podcast. That's safer. The American Toffee Where am I? The American Toffee Podcast is safe for work, gentlemen.
It's a family-friendly show. We are not.
No, we are definitely on the commute side of that listening experience. So the first piece is something you said right at the end. The Iowa caucus started today. Do not use the phrase "do your own research" from now until at least the fourth Thursday of November, please. We're back into that is a barred phrase. We can't say that anymore.
We are in the DMV. You're right. It's a good point.
The actual other point that I wanted to make real quick is also just to bring it back down to kind of our level a bit. Is essentially what it sounded like is Manchester City have avoided their day in court by employing lawyers that have stalled things, as well as creating a situation where they have so many offenses the Premier League has not been able to get to them yet. Chelsea filled out the forms, but filled them out in American dollars, and nobody can figure out the exchange rate that's happening every day. And Mushiri just essentially sent the form in crayon, is what you're saying.
Actually, I think that's pretty accurate. The sad part is that City approach, it worked for FIFA and UEFA. Like, how did that work? Yes, we made up a bunch of fake companies that were really our own selves, and we paid ourselves to break out our revenue and drive it up the wazoo, because the whole thing's based on revenue, basically. And it was cool. And we just, shucked and jived long enough that the statute of limitations went. And that worked. That worked. Oh my God, how does that work? It's like a bad movie, I don't know how the Premier League hasn't got to that one yet. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry, but I'm sure it's involved.
City reminds me
City
of
one?
Ray Liotta in Goodfellas. Fuck you, pay me. Fuck you, pay me. Fuck you, pay me. Like,
just the difference with City is, though, they were looking in the mirror when they said it.
Just
at this point, City, like, who cares? Like, because if I'm City, I'm like, look, you know what? Fine. What are you going to do? It's like when they try and take banners down off the wall from college sports and stuff. Like, yeah, okay. Yeah, there's no banner up there, so it didn't really happen. I mean, come on, man.
The Fab Five still made it to the final against North Carolina. Like, it's not like it suddenly changes. Like, oh yeah, because they were in violation. Oh yeah, no, they were never all five of them were never there. The timeout never happened. It never happened. Nothing to see here, people.
Yeah, we forgot UNLV suddenly. No, we did not. I mean, come on, man. It's just so ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, you said it right though, Sam. I mean, really. It's like coloring crayons. It's just stuff that you just like. This shouldn't be that complicated now. And I mean, the thing is, if this was just one instance, I get it. And I actually think Everton's case in the appeal wasn't very well made, but I think there's actually some legitimate things in that one. But if you go out and do the same thing again, I mean, I just don't understand it. My hope is that, the whole concept of like tethering debt to a stadium without being too, I'm trying to dumb it down to the DU level.
Well, that's what
but like, if you can't do that, like, how
so you should dumb it down.
But how hard is that? I mean, come on, man. Like,
well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, from essentially what I gathered from what you said is that he basically just didn't fill out his tax form correctly. Like, all of us are able to write off interest on a loan in some capacity,
of course,
and he just didn't do that.
I mean,
basically, and that seems like for somebody that's a fucking billionaire, that just seems like a routine thing to do. Like, why didn't you do that. It just like, so I joke around and say, yes, he filled out the form to the Premier League in crayon. It's just a way of saying that you didn't do something painfully fucking obvious. And that's the last, because I know Sam wanted to jump in with a question as well. Well, I wanted to make that point that it's just like, what are you doing?
I think the only thing, he's trying to be clever by having his hombre, his partner in crime, Rush and Usmanov, kind of collectively fund the stadium themselves. And they thought we were being all clever about it, which I just don't understand. Just take the financing deal you had in place and do it like a normal person. That's it. They're just trying to be special, trying to do something unique. Maybe they don't think the rules apply to them, but you don't do that with someone's football club. It's not okay.
Well, I mean, they're billionaires. The rules definitely don't apply to them.
So we've answered a lot of this next question already, and I just kind of want to go with a few things. One for, those of us here in America kind of thinking about, well, the stadium, what the hell? Why is this such a big deal? Unlike other countries, you pay for the stadium yourself in fucking England. It's not you go to the city council and go, oh, hey, make the taxpayers pay for it. Oh, have a lottery and make the lottery pay for the stadiums. That's just not how it is. And the problem is that our owner said, ooh, I have Russian oligarch money. I can spend it. And then a war happened. And then there was suddenly no more Russian oligarch money.
That's it. I mean, that explains everything that Everton done. And from a financial standpoint, he has no money. He's had to put up basically all the assets of the club to gain financing because he has no access to his assets. Now, my thought is that, 777 partners have come in to try and buy the club. This is going on forever. And I've got a lot of questions about that deal too, because I'm like, these guys are, already
they're sketchy as fuck.
No question. So the point is, they always claim to be self-financed too. There's no way they have the money to pull this thing up. So who's providing the funds? I don't want to.
It's got to be Portnoy, right?
Well,
it's got to be Barstool.
that would be a credible source. My concern is that it's someone like, funnel it through a shell company to another fund it's a very fun way to take sanctioned assets to magically poof. Now you've got free cash sitting in the UK that is totally legitimate because Farhad Mashiri is the one that got paid off. I don't know. Just seems all shady that they asked for as much money as they did and they were going to get it. Everton's in all sorts of problems right now for sure. And they're floating loan to loan just to pay people. He's just got no money. The problem is Mashiri should have sold a long time ago. He's just been a very, very bad owner on all certain levels. So sadly, nothing really surprised me anymore with this guy.
Now, that's going to lead me into a couple of things here. And we've also got a question from someone that is listening in right now, because I'm going to jump ahead on our question list and then come back to the initial question. It's kind of, let's go ahead and look at, because the world we live in is whataboutism. And we all of us, even people not involved in this, all go, what about fucking City and what about fucking Chelsea? Like, that's the first thing that pops into our mind. So, Mel, you've got the question for us?
Brian in the chat wants to know, do we think there will be any more clubs penalized this season? In particular, a certain club in West London, and it's not Fulham.
Yeah, he's a Fulham supporter.
Yes, I think this season, I don't know that Chelsea will get charged this season. And again, it is a loophole. It's a very gaping loophole, but it is a loophole. And Todd Bowley has been not really secretive about exploiting that loophole. Those amortizations have been structured over the length of the contract of the player. There's no real reason. Literally, since a Mike Ashley
they've closed they've closed the loophole since then. But really, we haven't seen an 8-year, 9-year contract since a Mike Ashley owned Newcastle signed Alan Pardew, right? And I think he just got done being paid. I think his day was 3 days after Bobby Bonilla Day for the Americans listening, where he still got paid by Mike Ashley after being sacked. So at one point, I think Alan Pardew was still being paid by 3 clubs when he was the technical director for that Bulgarian side or wherever he was.
Hey, if you're going to bring up Bobby Bonilla, don't forget about Albert Don't Call Me Joey Bell, because he had one of those pay structures too from Baltimore.
I got all sorts of stories about Albert Bell, by the way, but let's not take this totally off. No, he was in grad school when I was in grad school. For a year, I did one of my years at MBA at Arizona State. He was in there, believe it or not.
Nice. But so Chelsea have structured those deals, essentially hedging the bets for the next decade for the club, right? That, Mudryk was what, an 8-year contract or whatever, and they don't have to pay for him. That amortization is built over those 8 years. It's like you buying a car and then paying off a year and a half and then going and buying another car. And then, 6 months later, going and buying another car. And I have all these concurrent, deals that run, but you're still only paying $650 a month, right? So it's on your balance sheet at the end of your fiscal season. It's not that bad, right?
Yeah,
in reality.
Yeah, you're hitting.
That's essentially what's going on. And then also, like I said in my joking assessment, I think Todd Bowley just filled out the thing in American dollars, and the British government is still trying to use their fucking calculator to figure out how to convert it to fucking pounds.
I mean, they're going to be in trouble eventually. It might not be this year. It might be next year when you look at kind of the numbers, unless they do some crazy stuff.
Unless they fucking have a push at the end of the season and make Europe and then win the Champions League.
Yeah, well, I mean
that's the only amount of prize money that's going to set off what's happening right now.
Yeah,
honestly.
I mean, people got to remember, when he inherited the club, they made like some pretty big profits, I think, in the year prior. But yeah, if you look at it, you spend net spend of 500, whatever, you're right. You do spread it over the years of the contract. So you're only taking the hit 1 year after the next, but you still then got to sell people. But then they did. What I have a problem with what they did is, look at this. They sell Koulibaly at his age to Al Hilal for like 25 million. Like, I'm sorry. Who is the big fund owner? It's Bailey is not all the money. It's the Saudis that are part, I think, of Silver Lake to do it. So that's shady. And then Edouard Mendy goes to Al Hilal for another 20 million pounds. Like, we're not looking into that. That doesn't sound
well. There's the concern with Newcastle as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right. Is selling assets or having other clubs that have Saudi interests selling assets to Saudi for a shitload of money, and then them having a bad time, and being sold to Newcastle on the cheap. Like the Ruben Neves rumor won't go away from Newcastle at all. For instance, it hasn't happened yet. Don't get me wrong, but that sort of situation is what happens when you allow ownership across multiple leagues in multiple countries with different fucking rules. In the Saudi league, they literally can just toss a gold bar at the selling club. Here you go, fucking take it.
Well, that is a great point. It's a bigger point for a discussion for another time, frankly, because ultimately we're seeing that the big six clubs can now sell aging assets to the Saudis, essentially because the Saudis like baseball cards and they just want their Ken Griffey Jr. card and they'll spend $30 million to have them. Oh, I want a Jordan Henderson. Here's $30 million for him.
Yeah, the Liverpool fees are just ludicrous. But Sam, you're right though. I actually have done some work for some clubs in the Middle East, and the attraction for an ex-Premier League star is a big deal. It gives them recognition, it gives them legitimacy. So some of that's true, but some of these fees are ridiculous. Like the fees Liverpool got for Fernandinho was, come on. Like, seriously, that's just absolutely ludicrous.
And that's what's ultimately going to let them still stay sustainable. Sorry. But here's, I kind of want to wrap it up with a group of questions to kind of finish this all off is, first off, for Everton, do we think there's going to be another points deduction? Where do we stand in our current appeal? Has anything come from that? Is there going to be a points reduction to that? Do we go? Because I think it's universally agreed by everybody other than the three teams trying to stay up that the 10 points is fucking ridiculous. That Portsmouth was liquidated as a club and only lost 9 points. And then somehow you make one mistake for 20 million and you get 10 points. And then the final one is over the summer when we get through this season, because we're talking about what's going to eventually happen to City and eventually happen to Chelsea. Do we think the league is going to rechange how FFP works and just to make sure that they can get away with it? And, and they could still stand there and, look tall and strong and go, well, we told Everton and we told Forest, well, don't worry about City and them. They pay for things and they kind of make our league popular. So we're not going to pay any attention to that. Don't look at that. So that's my round of questions.
Well, the first thing I'll say is I would be shocked if the points reduction wasn't reduced to some extent. I mean, because it's kind of unprecedented and there was no basis for it. And frankly, in the Premier League's case, there's no basis for it. They don't even walk through the basis, really. And the idea that I don't like in there is this concept that, well, you have to dock them points because gives them a sporting advantage by nature. It's just the logic behind it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And they don't even attempt to defend it in their documents. So my guess, it drops a little bit. I don't know if Everton's going to get hit again.
I mean, Leicester got a fine. Burnley got a transfer ban.
Yeah. I mean,
so my opinion is on appeal, they will reduce your original and then reinstate the original on this charge. So they'll spare you the full 10 points on the first charge on your appeal, right? They'll say, okay, it's only 6 points instead of 10. And then this time, because it's essentially the same charge, the penalty, I think, will be less. And they'll say, you know what, we're going to charge you with 4 points. And you'll be back and made whole to your original 10-point deduction. Now, is that right? No. That's, in my opinion, though, Sam, from the outside looking in, and we're not buying a top-level striker this month because of FFP and Premier League sustainability rules,
which is the thing you absolutely need.
Thank you very much. I don't need to get into it. I don't need to get into it.
Wait, who Arsenal does? Arsenal needs a striker? Is that really?
Okay, let's look at the Premier League table real quick before y'all start getting too mouthy.
Everybody, for the first time ever, Graham doesn't want to make it all about Arsenal.
I'm sorry, Graham. They want to look at the Premier League table.
Well, now, wait, time out. Hold on 1 second. Arsenal should be thanking Everton for their fine. Otherwise, they would have failed several years ago if they didn't sell Alex Iwobi at the last minute to Everton. That was Kia's move.
All right, you know what?
That's a true story. Did you know that story?
I may scrap my entire point just to say this. If Sam Allardyce has been in charge of your club within the last 6 years, you're automatically charged by FFP.
Actually,
you're automatically in violation, and you should just be relegated.
I think actually that's a really strong statement. I support that one. I would. I think it's automatic deduction. Wait, he's on your list of candidates?
Bing. Out. Get
out. Get out. Just get out through it. What? Huh? Yeah,
but no. So
one thing though, just real quick, keep in mind. I mean, this is all in the backdrop is the idea of the independent regulator, the threat that the Premier League can't manage their own stuff, and that's a lot of the reason why they come out so hard at Everton. I think too. But look, it depends on the amount of the violation too. My guess it can only be interest charges related to somewhat stadium debt. I mean, Everton's going to have big interest expense anyway because they've been totally screwed up with their financial deals forever outside of stadium debt, but that's my guess what it is. So it just depends on how much the money is.
So, but what I was going to say is from the outside looking in, Sam, isn't that I understand the whataboutism, but isn't that a little bit of whataboutism, right? If Mushiri fucked up and he deserves to be punished for it. Now, does that mean, hey, take it easy on us because you're taking it easy on City? No. What that means is you should be harder on City because you were hard on us.
I mean,
that's the difference in the conversation is they need to charge City. They have charged City. They need to find City and hold City accountable. They need to look at Chelsea and Forest and some of these clubs that are doing these things. I mean, I don't know how many buffets Mike Ashley took the Newcastle players to, but eventually that £11.95 adds up. So they need to look at those balance sheets. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's true.
That's my point. Is the way that you say stuff sometimes. I haven't really called you out on it, but it is kind of whataboutism when you go, 20 million. Well, you fucked up, bro. Like you should be charged. You fucked up.
That does not stop. We fucked up.
I'm just saying. I'm just right. And then you talk about whataboutism, and then you just said we only fucked up 20 million. Do you really need to dock us 10 points? I agree the punishment was harsh, but what I'm saying is that does City not being held accountable does not alleviate Everton's accountability.
True. It's only different in the fact that they've come out and said, look, Everton's not intentionally trying to hide anything.
Correct. Now, that's fair. And that should be taken into account. That should be taken into account. Absolutely should be taken into account.
Everton was irresponsible.
We can tell, we can see that Mushiri is not smart enough to game the system. What they should be looking at is that the what are they, Qatari that own City?
Emirates.
UAE.
They're UAE. they are smart enough to game the fucking system. So you should be throwing the book at them.
On a big scale, man.
I get that. I understand that. The problem is that we all buy oil from them and we want to keep them fucking happy, don't we? So it all ties in.
So
as much as FIFA doesn't like to be in politics, football is directly entrenched in politics. It is the global sport. It is the mechanism for sports washing. Music, because of the Saudis, at least in this country, has become a mechanism for sports washing. And that's what the government regulators should be going after, is these entities, these states that are trying to sports wash and do things while on the back end chopping up fucking reporters and doing other nefarious fucking bullshit. And they're not doing it. I mean, the world is absolute dog shit. And our solace is football. And now football has been infiltrated by these cunts. And it's fucking annoying.
Well, that's why I want them to know who are the real buyers behind 777 Partners
Yep.
at Everton. That's the stuff that we as fans want to know. Because I mean, and the sad part is, like, can't you just kick Mashiri out like you did Rudy? I know you don't have any sort of political reason necessarily to do it, but that would be ample punishment because the fans would be thrilled. Don't punish the fans, right? Whatever happened to that? I will say this, though, in terms of rules going forward, Sam, to address your final question is, FIFA was already moving towards the issue with City and their delays and whatnot, more of an instantaneous enforcement idea to have it revenue based on salary, based on revenue, all similar to an NFL cap, but they've screwed that up, I think. So I don't think they're really going to implement it. But yeah, it should be something that's instantaneously enforced. Let me see what your numbers are. No, you can't approve this deal. No, you can't have that deal. If you really want to be serious about it. And look, I don't like revenue driven anything because it's totally unfair. It's missing the point. But, if it's something instantaneous, at least you know what the rules are.
Graham, the one point I wanted to make to you as you were going on about the whataboutism thing is I've said from the get-go, we fucked up. I've said that.
I'm not saying that you haven't said
Everton
that.
said that too.
Everton
said that too.
I'm not saying that you haven't said that. I'm saying that you sometimes contradict yourself when you go on rants, is what I'm saying. And
all right, I'm going to say the following. Leicester violated the rules when they came up to the exact same dollar amount we did. They received a fine, not a point deduction. If they would have received a point deduction, they wouldn't have finished in 17th place. They would have finished in the relegation zone, and they would have gone down. And the next year, they would have been playing in the championship, not winning the fucking league.
Well, I will say this too. Here's another one. If Forest gets off by waiting to sell Brennan Johnson and making money as a result,
big problem.
Well, it's a big problem for if you're an Everton fan, because then I look at it and say, well, wait a second. We sold Richarlison for 55, 60 million right before the deadline. And we had offers in the past for him for 80 and more. So you could apply the exact same scenario where Everton did eat it and could have made the difference. Would it have made a $19.5 million difference? £1 million difference? Maybe. So that'll be interesting how that turns out. I mean, look, how do they enforce any of this stuff? Like, the bottom line is don't put rules in play that you can't enforce. I mean, how ridiculous is this? We're looking back at financial statements 3 and 4 years ago and trying to manipulate.
That's absurd too.
It's so dumb. I don't know. It's just sad. Sometimes you're right, though. Where are the fans in all this? I mean, aren't the rules designed to be encouraging for the fans and the supporters? I thought
that's part of why I started off kind of being upset at Newcastle supporters for buying into the idea of their clubs being owned by the Saudis. But they're just fans of a team. They have no say in it. This is all above our head, just like anything else. And it's like, why should I stop loving what I love because the 1% does what they do? That's not fair. So I got less mad at Newcastle fans for them, buying into those.
Yeah, 10 points doesn't hurt Mashiri. We go down in the championship. He sells.
It hurts the fans. Yeah.
Well, that's what irritates me a little bit, because if Everton doesn't go down, and they said we can't fine him, we have to have a sporting sanction because of the sporting advantage gain. If Everton doesn't go down, you know what you just did? You just fined him, because they would have lost 2 to 4 places. That's amount to about £10 million, and that's your fine. I mean, how stupid is that? It's just dumb. So all it does, it is a virtual fine if they don't go down. So why punish the fans, you jerk? You know what I mean? Like, I just, it's all very backwards, I think. But you're right. Everton did wrong. They need to take responsibility for their own actions.
Absolutely.
And I tell you right now, if they try and pull the same interest expense garbage now, I'm like, you needed to have dedicated debt for the stadium, guys. That is on you.
The worst part about it is it's not Everton's fault. It's Mushiri's fault.
Yes, you're right. Very well put.
Whoever's fault. It's these institutions, these clubs were here long before these people lived, and they'll be here long after these people die. And that's the shame. The ownership structure, the word is still tossed around by everybody in English football, but the meaning has died a heavy death. These people are stewards of the club. The club is still the tribal piece in that neighborhood, regardless of its global appeal. Arsenal Football Club is still the tribal birthplace of North London. Yeah, we still do things in the community. We still go to the hospital. We still, provide the soccer school. We still provide support for families. We still do all those things. Yeah, that the original club did. I don't remember in my lifetime the Redskins doing a lot of that shit. They go to the hospitals to take the pictures. I don't remember them donating money to a bunch of people, a bunch of places in PG County. I remember them getting a lot of tax breaks for building that stadium, though. Right?
That was built with taxpayer money
and provided, some $9 an hour jobs. I remember them doing that, but I don't remember them doing anything else to further the economy or the people here. Right? Arsenal do that. Everton do that. Liverpool do that. Newcastle do that. All these clubs do those things still in England, the way that the system is worked out.
He said doo-doo.
a lot.
I was say, are we going to name the fucking
multiple
thing
times?
doo-doo?
Honestly, it wasn't just once. That was
probably.
I was like, you're rolling. Just go.
That's because it's all shit.
But right, exactly that is so on our level, right? These people are meant to be or supposed to be stewards of the club, and they're not anymore. And it's a further fucking situation where the 1% is growing, the rest of us are falling behind, and we don't matter. They don't give a fuck about us because we still buy their oil, we still buy their fucking whatever they're selling, natural gas. We still go
to their concerts.
We still go to their concerts. Well, more recently, we still go to their concerts or buy tickets to sporting events on their platforms. We still do these things, and they're just sitting there stroking their fucking tiger, driving their Lamborghini, and not giving a motherfuck about us. And it doesn't matter. And anytime somebody speaks wrong of them, they chop them up, throw them into the one river they got because it's really hot there, and that's it. And it's fucking bullshit. The world is bullshit. And the best thing we can do. Hold on 1 second.
I just want to make sure I understand one thing. Are you suggesting that if you have a Tiger or a Lamborghini, you're definitely part of the 1%? I just want to make sure. Not that I have them. I just throwing out. I just want to confirm.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ryan Williams, the one.
Let me ask you a question.
I mean, we never said I wasn't part of the 1%. But I just if I happen to have either of those two things.
Listen, don't be mad at me because you know how to write interest off, and Everton Football Club don't. All right, don't.
Yeah. Tigers are really hard to take care of. By the way, you need a lot of land. There's not enough land in where I live to have a tiger. I'm not saying I haven't looked into it.
It's just so frustrating because the gap is getting bigger, and we are becoming as a fan base, as normal world citizens, we're becoming less and less fucking important, and we're doing all the goddamn work, and it's fucking annoying, and I hate everything about it, and it just fucking sucks.
I think we just want to watch the game, man. We want to watch the game.
That's it.
Go with our friends. Have a fair competition and something that we love and get behind.
It speaks to so many more problems. It speaks to so many more politics, and it's ruining the game. This is what I feel the same level of dirty and angst that I felt when I watched Christian Eriksen collapse. When death infiltrated my game, I feel the same angst and dirtiness that I do now because of rich people getting into the game and fucking it up and using it as their plaything. And it sucks, and it's getting worse, and I hate everything about it because this is our escape from the mundane. This is our time to be animalistic or tribal ourselves. You know what I mean? Like this is the way to have a good fucking time. And once again, rich people are ruining it. And it sucks.
I can't fit in a Lamborghini, by the way. I'm too tall.
You're a rather tall man. Yes, Mel?
At least he didn't make a big cock joke. I thought that was coming. And
Again, the American Toffee Podcast is a family affair.
Yeah.
Family affair. That sounds like a weird Pornhub search.
Well, the rich elites can kind of do whatever they want with other people's. Now, you know what? I'm not going to go there just because the Epstein. No, sorry, bad idea. Sorry.
Hold on. Wait,
not going to take
the...
it down that route. Nope.
What
we'll
was
stick with Tigers and Lamborghinis?
We're that trashy. You can go down that route.
Oh, I know that. I don't want to be going down that route.
So what
you can do it after I get off.
I mean,
what I heard is
the phallic symbol behind you.
Or Madonna's breast, one of the two. What I heard was the American Toffee Podcast.
The stars, I get it.
The aristocrats.
Excellent.
I mean, Alex Johnson lives in the 757 and James is up in freaking Maine. So nah. I mean, we're Everton fans. I mean, come on, man.
It's just you and Nova, man. Just you and Nova. You're bringing up the tax bracket for the show.
This freaking place. Let me tell you what, this freaking place.
Let's go ahead and wrap it up, boys. Ryan, thank you very much for taking time to hang out with us. We're going to finish up the show. If you want to hang out on the Zoom, by all means, feel free. And then we're doing another show all about the rest of the other leagues as well. If you want to hang out, if not, you got to roll, no big. But please plug away everything for your show and where everybody can find you.
Well, I got to go feed my tiger, but the American Toffee Podcast, we're on. Mel, I love that. So great. Rare American Toffee Podcast. James, Alex, and I, a little bit different takes on Everton. Check us out. We're out there on Twitter. You could find me too at Ryan Soccer AA as well. Do lots of scouting.
Excuse me, sir. Another rich person fucked that up. It's X now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wherever the last bastion of free speech, is that what you're saying? Anyways, I mean, if we're gonna if you want me to play the role of the 1%, I could do that too. God, I'm like, I was wearing an Unfrozen Caveman Lawyer shirt the other day, like t-shirt, and that's what I think of. Sometimes this world frightens me. I just want to jump out of my BMW and run into a cave or something. No, in all seriousness, American Toffee Podcast. Listen to us if you want Everton news. And yeah, just follow me on Twitter if you'd like. I tweet about all sorts of different things, Premier League, not necessarily Everton. And I watch a lot of football. So if you've got any questions, any players around the world, things like that, give me a shout.
Ryan, at some point, you're going to do an intro to our show. And when you do the intro to our show, you're going to fucking cuss.
I mean, I'm from Pittsburgh. I mean, do you think I don't swear?
Well, I just want to hear you cuss.
Okay, all right.
The fact that you call it swear, I don't think you do.
Well, I mean, I grew up in Pittsburgh. Season tickets to Steelers, and I play ice hockey. I mean, seriously.
I've spent time with the man.
Yeah, I mean, Sam and I have had lots of drinks together. There's a whole lot of swearing there.
Lots.
Yeah.
All right, let's get on to your segment, Mr. Graham, since you don't want to get it started.
So this is, of course, the money segment. And I'm trying to find how much I'm down, and I can't currently.
Would you like me to go since I'm fully prepared, unlike you?
Yeah, this is our betting segment, obviously. Sure Money, which it's not really sure money, actually. It's an ironic reference because we suck. And I'm just bitter that I'm down $647. I found it. So, Sam, your turn.
Only one half of Manchester helped my bet. The problem is I need the other one to lose.